Hello everyone, today is 9th of February. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. Now guys, first of all, let's have a look on today's GS folder. So today we will be taking a quote from the Albert Einstein, the great physicist. He says, relativity applies to physics and not to ethics. Now, this particular quote points out to the notion that the ethics they are standing on to an absolute ground. There cannot be any compromise when the ethics are concerned, and ethical standards for our humanity as a whole are standing onto an absolute ground. Now, it can never be said that ethical standards for one person are different and for the another person it is different. Now, friends, into our GS paper number 4, there is the topic number 1, which is talking about the ethics and the human interface. Into that particular capacity, we can utilize this particular code. So, guys, that is all about this particular GS folder. And now let's move to the newspaper analysis. Now, guys, taking up the first news article. So, this article has been taken from the Business Standard and it is talking about the change that the government has brought with respect to the corporate social responsibility rules, CSR rules. Now, this particular article, guys, will be important for your GS paper number 3 with respect to changes in economic legislations, as well as in GS paper number 4 directly it can be utilized into the topic number 6 where the corporate governance has been mentioned. Now, first of all, guys, let's see the most basic things. Now, when we talk about the corporate social responsibility, it simply means that any corporate it is using the resources of the society, and at the same time the corporate might also be leading to some of the negative externalities also. For example, any corporate which is manufacturing the product, it might be causing the pollution, it might be causing the discharge of the polluted water into the nearby water bodies. So as these negative externalities are there, the corporate has a responsibility that it needs to devote some extra effort towards the conservation of the people, conservation of the society, as well as the conservation of the nature. Now, into this particular idea, guys, always it has been said that some part of the profit a corporate should invest into their nearby environment. And guys, into the context of India, the concept of corporate social responsibility is provided into the section number 135 of the Companies Act 2013. So first of all, here comes the eligibility conditions for the different corporates to qualified for the CSR. Now it has been provided that any corporate whose net worth is more than 500 crore rupees, or if it is turnover is more than 1000 crore rupees, or if their net profit is more than 5 crore rupees, if any one of the condition is fulfilled, then that corporate has to commit some of the expenditure as the corporate social responsibility. After this, the next question comes that how much is to spend as per the CSR. So guys, it is provided that 2% of the average profits into the last 3 years is to be spent as a CSR. Just to make this particular thing very clear, we will be taking up an example. Now guys, suppose a company A, in first year it has the profit of 10 crore rupees, in second year it had the profit of 20 crore rupees, and into the third year it had the profit of 30 crore rupees. Now guys, here the average profit will be 20 crore rupees every year. Now the 2% of the 20 crore rupees, that is the 40 lakh rupees, is the CSR that has to be spent by this particular company. So this is the basics of the CSR. Now, for the first time, when the section 135 was put, guys, at that point of time, it was said that into the context of CSR, there will be the comply or explain policy that the government will be using. It means that you carry forward your CSR expenditure, and if you failed, then you need to give an explanation that why do you got failed. And guys, into this incident of failure, there were the penalties also, particularly the criminal penalties were also there. Now, the new rules for the CSR, that is the CSR rules of 2021, has been notified by the government. And under these rules, what has happened? First of all, guys, there are now a stringent penal provision has been attached. Earlier, the policy was comply or explain. Now, this particular thing has been changed to the mandatory compliance. And if any corporate failed to spend their CSR money, then guys, there will be increased penal provisions up to the 25 lakh rupees. Now, guys, with this particular thing, it is being said that as now the mandatory compliance condition has been put, India has become the first country into the world to do this particular thing. But, guys, if I tell you very frankly, even in 2013 also, when we introduced the CSR, the conditions were such that it is nothing but the mandatory only. But now, what the change has come, specifically, the mandatory compliance has been written into the rules. Now, after this particular thing, there is also some other major changes that has come. And but before going into that particular thing, I would like to give you some other background also. See, in 2018, government established one expert committee, that is the Injeti Srinivas Committee. And the task of the Injeti Srinivas Committee was to recommend some of the changes into the CSR regime of India. It gave some recommendations, and now broadly, these many of these recommendations have been accepted. Now, first change that has come is that all the companies which are spending the money into the CSR project, all those projects are to be provided a kind of a unique registration number, so that all that particular project can be tracked, whether it is actually going or it is just a dummy project. For this particular thing, the change has been there. Then, guys, the Injeti Srinivas committee recommended that into the context of India, not fulfilling the CSR obligation leads to the criminal prosecution, and Injeti Srinivas committee recommended that particular thing is eroding the ease of doing business in India. So therefore, it asked to remove the criminal provisions and just to make it as a civil offense. So now what has been done? The corporate ministry has decriminalized the provisions of the CSR rules. Now the disclosure has been increased, and any company not fulfilling their CSR obligations can be charged under the civil offenses only. After that, guys, it has also been provided that any company whose CSR obligation is more than 10 crore rupees, they have to go for a mandatorily impact assessment. Impact assessment means that what positive change onto the ground has come by your expenditure. Such kind of thing has also been provided. After that, guys, it has further the change has been brought that all the activities that a company is taking under their CSR, for that particular thing, they had to make it public onto their website. Then, guys, further, the next change that has come, that any unspent money under the CSR has to be transferred to a relevant fund maintained under the schedule number 7 of the Companies Act. Now, guys, yeah, if we take this particular thing by the help of an example, you can see that this particular company's CSR obligation was 40 lakh rupees. But let's assume that this company was able to spend only 20 lakh rupees. Now, the 20 lakh rupees is the unspent CSR fund. So, this particular money has to be transferred to any of the fund maintained under the schedule number 7. Under the schedule number 7, the company can maintain the different kind of funds. For example, funds in order to eradicate the extreme hunger and poverty, for the promotion of education, for the promotion of gender equality, to reduce child mortality, and all such kind of things. And guys, even recently, the PM Cares fund has also been added here. So basically, these are the different accounts that the company has to be maintained. In any one of them, it can transfer that particular money. So this is the basic understanding of this particular aspect. So guys, that is all about this particular issue. I hope that you have understood it. And see, earlier also the UPSC has asked a direct question onto the Companies Act. So into the times to come, again there might be a possibility onto this front. So that is all. And now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, friends, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it pertains to the recent decision taken by the Tamil Nadu governor in the context of release of the 7 people who are convicted for the assassination of the Rajiv Gandhi. Now, before going into this article, let me give you some of the background. See, guys, there are 7 people who have been accused of the assassination of the Rajiv Gandhi. Now, these people are into the jail for more than 30 years, and into this context, in 2018, the state cabinet of the Tamil Nadu made this particular thing very clear to the governor that he should order the release of these 7 people. Now, into this particular capacity, the governor was to take up a decision under the article number 161 of the Indian Constitution. But what has happened? Tamil Nadu governor is not taking the decision. Rather, he had forwarded this particular issue to the president of India, and he had asked him to take the matter under article number 72 of the Indian Constitution. You might be knowing under article number 72, the president has been given the power to the pardon. Now, the question is coming that when the governor has referred this particular matter to the president, whether this particular thing is constitutionally tenable or not, because under the Constitution, article number 72 as well as article number 161 has been kept onto the equal footing. What is the logic of the governor to refer this particular matter to the president of India? No, it has been said that there might be two logics into this particular capacity. First of all, it was said that the Rajiv Gandhi case was tried under a central anti-terrorism law, that is the TADA law, and as this particular law is under the center's purview, so therefore the governor is asking the recommendation from the president. And secondly, it was said that under this particular thing, the probe was carried by the CBI. So therefore, the matter might have been there. But guys, this particular logic is not correct. It is wrong. Why? Because in 2015, the Supreme Court has very clearly dropped the TADA charges into this particular case. So therefore, it is just a charge under the CRPC, and the state is competent to take the decision into this regard. And moreover, in 2015, Supreme Court gave one more observation also with respect to the exercise of the governor's pardoning power. He says that though into some of the cases, center's concurrence can be taken, but it cannot override the sovereign power which has been given to the constitutional authority, that is the governor. So asking the president or indirectly asking the central government is not making any particular sense here. Now it has been said that guys, into in this entire particular matter, there are compelling arguments which are coming that the people have been convicted, but there is no very strong compelling case that actually they were involved directly into the assassination of the Rajiv Gandhi. And now as more than 30 years are happening since the incarceration of these people, this particular matter had become a humanitarian issue. And into this particular context, as soon as possible the decision should be taken. Now, into this particular matter, a situation is coming that why the center is so much hesitant. It might be the case because the center government wants to put forward a zero tolerance policy towards such an act of terror, and therefore the center government is also not taking a very clear decision. And after that, into this particular capacity, one more issue is coming that the central government might be taking a decision during the time when the Tamil Nadu assembly elections will be around the corner. So even onto this particular charge, it has been said that such a sensitive issue should not be made a populistic agenda. So guys, this is just a kind of a thing that you can see that onto the irritant between the federal relations between the center as well as the state authority. There were the issues with respect to the governor role, and earlier the governor's role into the context of Article number 356 were majorly involved, but now a new dimension, that is the article number 72 vis-a-vis article number 161 has also come. So guys, that is all into this particular context. I hope you have understood it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, this particular article has been clubbed by taking up the articles from the Hindu newspaper, the Mint newspaper, as well as one of the article from the Indian Express, and it is talking about the recent environmental disaster that had happened into the Uttarakhand. So, into this particular context, today we will be taking up a holistic picture. And guys, with this particular article and with the yesterday's article of the 8th Feb, you don't need to take then any other further articles into this particular regard. First of all, very basic thing, what this disaster is all about. Somebody is calling it as a flood, somebody is calling it as a deluge. No, guys, into the scientific terms, it is being called as the GLOF event. Now, the GLOF stands for the Glacial Lake Outburst Flood. Now, what are these GLOFs? See, it is said that when there is a glacier, the glacier melts at a natural rate, and the water which is dropping by this particular glacier, it collects into a kind of a lake-like formation, and this lake is held together with the moraine dams. Now these moraine dams are made up of with pebbles, sand, and some of the ice residues. But with respect to the structural integrity, these structures are actually very weak, and with the increase into the water, these structures can break down. Now it has been said that into the recent Uttarakhand incident, what happened, one big chunk of this particular glacier, it broke down and it fell into this particular lake, and this moraine dam, it got breached, and by that particular thing there was the huge surge of water that came into the region nearby rivers, and it completely eroded the dams, the structures whichever were established into the nearby vicinities or onto the river bodies. And guys, it has been said that whenever these GLOF incidents happen, there is a huge flooding happens into very less time. It has been said that more than 15,000 cubic meter per second water is released. And guys, according to the National Disaster Management Authority, it has been said that into the past few years, there is a glacial retreat that is happening into the Hindu Kush mountains. It means that the glaciers, they are melting at a very fast rate, and the reason for that particular thing is climate change. And into this capacity, it has been said that into past few years, there are large number of glacial lakes which has been created, and as these glacial lakes will be created in more number of quantity, such kind of incidents will over and over be happening. And And guys, if we put it into the numbers, then according to one of the study conducted by the Central Water Commission and actually carried by the National Remote Sensing Center, it is provided that approximately 2000 glacial lakes have been there into the Ganga, Brahmaputra and Indus basins respectively. And according to the National Disaster Management Authority, it is said that in order to curb such kind of incidents into the future, we need to keep a check onto such glacial lakes. We need to check that what is the level of water into them, whether there are some structural damages into them. And into this capacity, NDMA has recommended the use of the synthetic aperture radar imagery into the Himalayan region to automatically detect the changes into the water bodies, if there are any new lake formations, and to see what has been the status of these glacial lakes after the monsoon. Now, guys, if one particular thing I would like to tell you, this particular year, the glof has also been caused by the less number of snowfall. Now, when there is a big snowfall, it fixes the structural damages, cracks, etc. So, therefore, to monitor the snow also, it is an important task, and all these things can be done by the synthetic aperture radar imagery, and therefore the center government needs to invest into such kind of infrastructure. But guys, as if we see as of now, then very less investment has been done for the early warning systems. So therefore, friends, as we talk about what needs to be done or the way forward, there are some specific suggestions that can be given. Number one, we need to reduce the kind of a human-made development into this particular region. Guys, it has been said that according to the national plan for the dam that has been taken up by the India, and if it materializes to the fullest, then for every 32 kilometer into the Himalaya, there will be one dam, and it will be the highest density of the dam into the world. And guys, it has been well proven to be a fact that the dam induced microseismicity has always been a very big factor for any kind of damage into the Himalayan ecosystem. Himalayas are very much fragile, guys. There have been the earthquakes into the 1991, into the 1999, which have been caused by the microseismicity, and therefore constructing such large number of dams will not be very much good. So therefore, such kind of human induced development needs to come down. After that, guys, I also told you that these developments are not only causing the microseismicity, rather they are also leading to the heat island effect, which is caused due to the large reinforced concrete which is being used. So even if the development has to be carried, rather than using the reinforced concrete, we should use the traditionally available materials such as the wood, etc., which are called to be more sustainable for the fragile ecology. Then, guys, further there is one more suggestion that can be given, that government needs to invest heavily into the early warning system such as the synthetic aperture radar imagery. And after that, it has also been recommended that the government needs to invest onto the comprehensive alarm system, so that the local communities can be given the information into the real time basis whenever such kind of catastrophe is happening. Then, guys, thirdly, it has been provided that the government also needs to carry a detailed zonation of the areas which are ecologically fragile, and into those areas, the norms with respect to the use of machinery, the type of construction, etc., they are needed to be regulated. After that, it has been provided that government needs to adopt the idea of natural capital, which has been suggested by the Parth Dars Gupta, one of the academician at the Cambridge University. He says that always we had considered that the environment as a kind of a free buy, and we had never utilized it as an input, because always the input comes with a cost. And guys, therefore now we need to stop treating the environment as a kind of a free commodity. Rather, we need to assist a cost with it, so that that particular money can be used for accommodating the environmental concerns. And then, guys, the final recommendation that we can give is with respect to the rescue operations into the aftermath of such kind of crisis. Now, it has been said that apart from raising the specialized forces such as the National Disaster Response Force, IDBP, Army, the NDMA has emphasized that we need to train the local manpower. According to the NDMA, it has been seen that 80% of the rescue operations are carried out by the local community. So therefore, they need to be provide the adequate training as well as equipment, so that the local people can come out into the rescue when such kind of things happen. So basically, friends, now a kind of a over everlasting response is to be done. Now it has been provided that the destruction which has been carried recently, it happened into the Rani village, and the Rani village was the center for the Chipko movement, and all the eco movements, majority of them had started from the Rani village, and the village has always said that the ecology is the permanent economy, but we have not paid attention to such kind of things. But now we cannot ignore the fragility of the Himalayan ecosystem, and the steps are to be taken up. So guys, that is all about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, this particular article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it is talking about the ignorance that the government has shown for the environment. Now, it has been said that as far as 1991, when the India went for the LPG reforms, there was the concerns that how the government will be balancing the high growth with the environmental concerns. However, it has been said since then that when the higher growth will be coming, then by that particular growth, the money will be invested back into the environmental conservation, and the Western countries has demonstrated this particular fact. But number one, this particular thing is wrong. It is a fallacy. It is being provided that you can never replenish a 1,000-year old forest which has just been drowned because of the construction of a dam, or you cannot simply cut 100-year-old tree and say that we have planted the 10 trees. So this particular approach is wrong. And even if you want to replenish the environment, then also, guys, the allocations that has been given by the government over and over by the different types of budget, it has always been very much insignificant. And it has been seen that even in the 2021 budget, which has just recently been announced, the allocations for the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change had remained insignificant. And now, guys, there is one more recommendation also. It is coming. The Ministry of Finance is of opinion that the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change should disconnect with the crucial institutions such as the Wildlife Institute of India and the Indian Council of Forestry Research. It is being said that these institutions should explore the ways by which how at their own they can raise the money. But it has been said that if materialized, such kind of thing will be disastrous on many fronts. Number one, into this particular way, these institutions have to depend onto the private sector to raise their finance, and the private sector will try to seek the loyalties of these institutions, and the private sector will expect that they remain silent whenever any irregularities are being committed, and into this capacity the autonomy of these institutions will be winding up. After that, into the article, it has been provided that on one front, government is doing the good task, that is onto the reliance over the renewable energy, and into this context, even many of the world countries had appreciated India. And guys, India's attempt could be seen by the budgetary allocation. For example, in 2021 budget, 3,500 crore rupees have been allocated for the wind and solar energy, 4,000 crore for the deep ocean mission, and similarly on to various other projects also the money has been given so that the renewable energy can be enhanced. But at the same time, India is not coming out with any policy that how it will be reducing the reliance onto the fossil fuels, and at the same time, even the hydropower is also being publicized as the renewable energy. But hydropower cannot be a sustainable renewable energy because of the disastrous impacts of it onto the fragile ecology. After that, there are other concerns also. For example, government has not announced any decentralized plan for the conservation. For example, guys, it has been provided that India's approach is to put the reliance onto the big ticket projects for the environmental conservation, for the conservation of water, etc. For example, we build the big reservoirs, and these reservoirs come with its own cost. We have not taken up the potential of decentralized approach in conserving the environment. For example, guys, for the conservation of water, we need to persuade the local communities that they should use the local rooftop and backward harvesting techniques. They should restore and conserve the urban wetlands. The regeneration of the groundwater needs to be taken up by the government as well as the community, and all these particular things can achieve a better result than the big ticket projects. After that, it has been provided that the government has not come out as how it will curtail the wasteful consumption of the energy, luxurious consumption of energy, as we cannot afford that particular thing. And then, guys, finally, into the budget, government has also announced the Deep Ocean Mission. Now, this Deep Ocean Mission is aimed to conserve the biodiversity into the depth of the marine areas. Now, guys, the marine ecology has been ignored over so many years, and now the Deep Ocean Mission into this particular light is a very good kind of thing. But here also there are some of the problems. For example, guys, the government has identified the nodal institutions, and they are the Ministry of Earth Sciences, the Indian Space Space Research Organization, ISRO, DRDO, that is a Defense Research and Development Organization, and there are the Department of Atomic Energy, the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Department of Biotechnology, as well as the Indian Navy. So these many institutions are there, but none of them is having any expertise into the conservation of the marine ecology. So whether they will be able to fulfill their task efficiently or not, it is also a kind of a question. Then after that, there is also one more good thing that has happened, that the government has specifically allocated 18,000 crore rupees for the public transport, and this particular thing will benefit the people as well as environment, because guys, when we talk about the vehicle density, it is increasing into the cities, and in order to reduce such vehicle density, we need to focus on to the public transportation. But guys, even after that particular thing, there are many areas where the government has lagged. That is, we have not came out with any policy that how the infrastructure such as the road network which is being developed, how it will minimize the environmental losses. Into this 2021 budget alone, 11,000 kilometer of new highways are proposed, and they will many times be passing from the ecologically fragile regions such as the regions of the Western Ghat, Northeast India, Himalayas, and how basically the environmental losses will be minimized, it has not been provided. So guys, these are all the concerns into this particular respect, as though it was a generalistic idea, but some of the good aspects with respect to the budget has also been provided. So guys, please do utilize such kind of information with respect to your GS paper number 3. So that is all, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, here you can see the different articles all has been taken from the Hindu newspaper. Now you don't need to go first of all into the hairline details of any of this particular article, but a broad trend is there that we need to identify. See, first of all guys, you might be knowing that into the last few days we have seen that the Sri Lanka had scrapped the East Container Terminal. That was a project that India and Japan were collectively taking up into the Sri Lanka. Now this particular is a thing, a kind of a very big setback to the India. Now, as already this entire issue we have covered multiple times, I will not be going into this particular thing. Now guys, as this particular scrapping of project is going on, Sri Lanka around the same time has approved a Chinese project for the energy development, and this particular project is just 50 kilometer away from the Tamil Nadu coast. Now there are both broad two trends are coming, that is, India's project is being scrapped, China's project is being approved. What it shows, it shows a kind of a diplomatic failure of India with the neighborhood countries, and at the same time China is becoming more and more resilient and having, and it is able to take more and more India's neighborhood countries into its own zone of confidence. This particular thing is a testimonial to that aspect. After that guys, here you can see that the India's union minister of state for road transport and highways, as well as the former army chief General VK Singh, has made a kind of a statement into the parliament where he had said that we have transgressed more into the Chinese territory. If the China had come for 10 times, India had went there for the 50 times. And this particular thing is now being put forward by the China as a propaganda. Now China is playing the victim card, and he had said that we are not intruding into the Indian territory, rather we are ourselves the victims. And because of this particular thing, now the India is might be seen as an aggressor, and India might not be able to garner the international support onto the LAC matter. So this could be an example of the irresponsible diplomacy. And guys, into the same context, now the Xi Jinping is asking the People's Liberation Army that it should be ready for the combat readiness, and that combat readiness's excuse could also be the factors such as the irresponsible statements being made by the Indian leaders. Guys, into this particular capacity, the Prime Minister also had made a such kind of statement last year when he said that nobody has ever intruded into the Indian territory, and this particular thing again justified the China's own narrative. China was always saying that we are not going into the Indian territory, wherever we are, it is a Chinese territory, and the Prime Minister's statement cements that particular claim of China. So, guys, just for your understanding, you need to keep such particular kind of thing that into the diplomacy, the statements and all the kind of narratives do play a very important role, and therefore the Indian diplomacy needs to be much more responsible, as well as it needs to overreach the neighborhoods, so that the tendency such as the scrapping of Indian project and at the same time approving the Chinese project, it doesn't happens. So that is all about this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, just a kind of a brief update, might not be that much directly relevant to the UPSC. Guys, just yesterday, the Prime Minister had addressed the Parliament and had called a new class that is emerging in India, that is the Andolan GV. Now, Andolan GV, these are the people who are present at all the kind of protest, be it the any section, and these Andolan GVs has also been called as Parjeevis. Parjeevis means a kind of a parasite. As well as he had also said that a new kind of an FDI is coming into the India, and that is the foreign destructive ideology. So basically, it is a kind of an attempt to provide that the agitations they might have a foreign vested interest, and into that particular thing, many of the developmental initiatives of India are being criticized. Now, guys, in whatever matter you might decode this particular address, but on one particular front, there are some of the issues into this context. Number one, the right to protest or the right to carry a kind of an andolan has been specifically provided under the article number 19. And if any person wants to exercise this particular right for any particular matter, even if he might be aggrieved or even he might not be aggrieved, then he is well into the territory of his fundamental rights as well as democratic rights. And such kind of a statement by the Prime Minister might not be justified onto the democratic traditions, which depends entirely onto the importance of the dialogues, putting forward the dissent, putting forward the challenges. Rather, on to the other hand, it is the responsibility of the ruling party that it provides such kind of evidences, it provides such kind of justifications that all the challenges can be resolved into a democratic manner. And discrediting the force of the protest might not be justifying the democratic principles. So, guys, that is all just a kind of a viewpoint. You might agree with it or you might 100% disagree with it. It is, at the end of the day, it is just again a kind of a viewpoint, again a kind of a perception. So, guys, that is all about the today's newspaper analysis. I hope that you are able to understand it. Thank you so much.